Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Great Conversations. My name is Butch Porter, and we're here with Cynthia Liang here in Loudoun. Cynthia is a high school student here in Loudoun County. We've been working on something with Loudoun Youth called DCubed, and that stands for Discuss, Debate, Discover. And so Cynthia has been our main high school cheerleader and recruiter, for the cause. So tell us a little bit about what DCubed has meant to you.
DCubed is a platform where students, such as myself, feel like our opinions matter at the dinner table. So certain controversial issues, politics, philosophy, religion, we discuss that and we change our perspectives and grow with it.
Politics, philosophy, and religion. That sounds so familiar. That's right. That's what I want to talk about every day. That's my sports. I tell everybody that politics, religion, and philosophy is my sports. Although I'm a big LSU football fan. But you're not. That's not one of the colleges you're looking at, is it? That's too bad. So you're a senior looking to go into college. So do a lot of your fellow seniors, and I guess even underclassmen, do they have similar concerns about being able to talk about things? Why is it you can't talk about those things in high school?
A lot of it is just the pressure of being high school students. So some students aren't comfortable with telling their friends where they're applying because if they get rejected, it's a cause for embarrassment.
Right.
And then you have the parents at home who can't stop talking about college, so you'd rather not.
Okay.
That's a large portion of it, I feel like.
No, I mean the politics, religion, and philosophy.
Oh, okay. I thought you were on college. Okay.
No, but college, that's a high pressure
Right.
thing, right? It is really serious. So is that self-imposed? Is it just back to the college thing? Is it just the kind of where we are maybe, or is it just shameless ambition, or what is it that drives it?
It's a mixture of both, definitely, and I think it just depends on the type of person you are. And so the ambition part, some students are really into the college thing, some students aren't. So I feel like that has to do with it, a lot of what you don't talk about with your friends.
Okay, well, help me out. But you don't feel pressure from teachers, right?
No.
No, it's just your friends.
Right.
So are you afraid that when you're talking about, contentious things, is it fear that you'll be, I don't know, that you'll be called a name and that you'll be, labeled something that you're not, or labeled something that you are, or what is it that causes the biggest?
For me, it's that sense of wanting to keep the peace. So
Yes.
if you know that you're discussing something that could be controversial, you don't go charging full head on because there's so many different opinions. And we're high school students. Some of us know things, some of us don't. It could get uncomfortable,
Yeah, do you think you know things? I mean, when I was in high school, I knew everything, right?
Right.
When I got in my 20s, I realized I didn't know as much,
Right.
and I'm almost to the point where I realize that I know nothing. And once you come to the point where you realize you know nothing, then everything gets a lot easier after that. So that's what they tell me anyway.
Yeah. I mean, there's still so much I don't know. So like even at the D3 event, sometimes
Right.
when we talk about politics or something like that, I don't know enough. So, yeah.
So what are the things you do talk about?
At school
Other than
right,
college, of
right.
course, right?
Just any current movements or any huge issue that's happening at school. Sometimes it's something stupid like a bell change, but I mean, for controversial things, it's really just the social media thing. So whatever is trending on Twitter, whatever's going around.
Is that where you guys are pretty much getting all your information? Is
Social
Twitter?
media, yeah, internet.
Yeah, well, adults are too. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I mean, that's where most of us are. I'm Gen X. I'm a Facebook guy, right? I mean, most of my time is spent on Facebook when it comes to social media. So, give me an example of a topic that you feel like you learned something about at one of the DCubed events, or maybe one of your friends, brought to the table, or what are some things that you feel like you gained from it?
I thought the chivalry discussion
the chivalry conversation
was so interesting because I've never heard a perspective where women and men maybe are different based on something that's biological, but
Right.
it made sense at that setting.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, that's not a decisive
Right.
thing, but yeah. I
Right.
think one of the if I recall, one of the things that came out of that is that chivalry is not really about the girl; it's about the guy. I mean, it really is. You know,
Right.
we are uncivilized human beings, and we need training,
course.
right? We're barbarians, and so we need training. Chivalry is there to train us. It's not to. It's not as much about. I mean, it is about the girls, but it's also about the guys. That was an interesting one. We also had one on free speech. I think one of the first ones we'd have was on free speech. So when you're looking at, are you allowed to tell me what colleges you're looking at?
Yeah,
Okay,
of course.
what's your first choice?
My first choice is Georgetown University.
Oh man, I thought you were going to say LSU because that would have been really cool.
Right.
I'm just kidding. I knew you weren't going to say LSU. So Georgetown, that should be. So what are you gonna pursue?
I'm trying to pursue a major in Chinese.
Really? Okay.
Right, linguistics.
Okay.
And then, so at Georgetown University, people who major in the linguistics area are highly encouraged to pursue a second major or a minor in another area in their
Okay.
liberal arts college. So I want to do government.
Right. That's good.
Right. So
That's good. So international affairs is something you think
Yeah.
you'd and we're in DC Metro. And it's kind of
Right.
a stretch, right? Yeah. So you don't want to move to the left coast. You want to stay over here and work in government. You think?
yeah.
So so do you have friends that are in college?
Yes.
Okay.
My sister's in college, so freshman year at UVA.
Are they enjoying it?
Yeah. Great transition time.
That is one of the purposes of
Right.
college, right? To transition youth to the real world. So when you think of adulthood, so did you know that adult is not a verb and it can never be? It's actually just a noun.
Well, I'm still going to continue using it.
Hashtag adulting, right? Yeah, there's a whole book written on this topic. So anyway, so what do your friends say that are in college? What do they say about the change in the conversation? Are you more open to talk about things in college than from what you know, or is it worse? Or
From what I know, there's less of a fear of being judged. So
Okay.
at college, in my perspective, I think people are more willing to step forth with
we're hoping, right?
with their opinions, despite people who disagree. So I definitely think,
Yeah. So you're looking forward to that,
right? Yeah.
right? Well, you know, in law and government, you'll get a variety of good opinions. I think one of the challenges of the universities now is really more on the hard humanities side. That's where there's sort of a uniformity of thought, and contrary opinions are not very welcome. Before we got on camera, I asked you if you were familiar with the term snowflake, but you are familiar with the term trigger warnings, right?
Yes.
So talk to me about trigger warnings. Has that any of that happened in high school, or is that just something you hear about in college?
From what I've seen about trigger warnings, it's usually if you're about to post or say something
Okay.
that might be a little offensive or
Okay. Well, a lot of it, where the term comes is that, like if somebody has a course and they're going to use texts that are historical in nature, and so they put a trigger warning to say, you know, there may be inappropriate language or inappropriate attitudes towards minorities or women or blah 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 blah. And so they put these trigger warnings, like Huck Finn, you know, uses the N-word, and so we should put a trigger warning in front of it. But anyway, so it's not. There's a lot of different ways in which it's used, but there's a growing challenge on college campuses about free speech, about the ability of people to express their opinions. So I don't know how bad Georgetown is or any of the other colleges are, but it is one of those things. So so when you get into government, what do you picture yourself? What is the part of it that you enjoy the most?
just, I don't know, the whole being involved, making decisions, that sense of leadership and feeling like you're changing a community, just stuff like that. I don't know, it's more of an ambitious drive to matter or have a say in
Right.
something.
Yeah. Well, I think that's important. I think a lot of times we look at government as a place. I remember Barack Obama said one time that, you know, the way he viewed government was government is what we do together. I can't count the number of ways I disagree with that statement, but but it is one of the ways we do
Right,
things
right.
together, right? I think there are a million ways in which we do things together. But So is it more of a policy making and more of a international sort of change in the world, or what is it that interests you the most?
Both, but
Yeah.
I think definitely more on the international side, just because bring Chinese into it, bring a sense of culture, use what I have,
Okay.
language part of it.
Right. So you're first generation, or
Yeah, first
okay. All
generation.
right. All right. All
Yeah.
right. So have you been over there at all?
Yeah, Georgetown?
No,
Or
no,
do you
to
mean?
China.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I've never been to Asia at all, right? So I'm not at all
Missing
familiar.
out.
Am I? Yeah, I should go. So what did you think? How long were you there?
Actually, when I was like, after I was born in Maryland, I went back to China for 3 years. So I sort of grew up with something from, I don't know, but I was 3 when I came back, so how much do I actually know? I actually went back for a visit last summer
Okay. Oh, right. Okay.
to
That's
see
cool.
family vacation, and it
So you
just,
still got cousins over there? And
oh,
all that stuff,
everyone's
yeah.
over there.
Really?
It's just us and like a cousin. That's
Oh,
it.
that's
Yeah.
wild. Okay. So, so when it comes to having conversations with your friends and you're looking forward to college, do you think that do you think you get involved in like I don't know student government or I don't know civic groups or you know that kind of stuff? Have you done stuff like that in high school or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's just so much, and especially in college where there's like hundreds of clubs.
Right. Clubs.
My sister is in one that's based on it's like a sorority, but not for like Asians.
Uh huh.
So I mean, there's cultural. So I feel like
Yeah.
something for everyone.
Do you think that when you're looking at how to improve the conversation, and do you think that's like part of the I mean, when you look at DQ, do you look at the other ways in which, you know, we have conversations? Do you think things have gotten too contentious in the past? I know it's hard for you to judge because, you know, you haven't, you know, you're young and you haven't seen, I mean, it's funny, we hear stuff all the time about how contentious things are, and then we look at the election of 1796 and we realize that, yeah, it could be worse. I mean, it can get really contentious. But from your perspective, do you think that the last couple of years have been contentious, and what do you think we can do to if so, then what do you think is there anything we can do to improve upon it from a conversation standpoint or from a engagement standpoint? What do you think some of the things we can do?
I definitely just think having a conversation, because when you're conversing with other people, new perspectives are involved. You learn more. You grow with it. You change your perspective. So it definitely sets a more honest vibe to everything. Like it just, you can be honest in that conversation, and then whatever comes out of it, you don't have to be closed to changing your opinion or maybe lying about something. So you're just more honest about what you feel.
Yeah, I think when you look at the free speech issue, for instance, which we talked about, I think one of our first conversations was free speech, and it's something that one of our previous guests, Mel Pine, we were talking about how free speech used to be a left thing.
Right.
Back in the 60s, it was a left thing. And now it's more of a right of center thing. We're concerned about, you know, and you may not know this because I try to keep this completely quiet, but I'm sort of on the right. However those terms are defined, I usually find myself there in the U.S. So where do you think the line is, and this is one of those conversations, where do you think the line is between controversial speech and hate speech is, right? We hear a lot about hate speech, you know, and that's where a lot of in college campuses, what you'll find out is that that's where they want to draw the line. They want to call it hate speech because it's something that is, well, it's unpopular, right? Or it's something that, you know, they don't want to hear. So where do you think that line is, if you had to guess?
I think it's the way you frame it. So, for example, the pro-life versus pro-choice issue, saying I am pro-life versus pro-choice people suck and don't know what they're doing. So I think it's really just a level, when you come to offend a group of people and you're directly calling them out as being wrong or evil or something like that, that's, I think, maybe where it could be crossed, like just the threshold of it. Maybe not hate speech, but
that's a pretty high bar. I mean, if the definition of hate speech is that you're specifically calling out a group of people and calling them lower, right? Then that's a fairly decent line to draw. I think a lot of times if we what happens is if we disagree on a way to solve a problem, then we're just all of a sudden it's blanketed.
Right.
And that can get challenging. I mean, Berkeley. I don't know if you're familiar. I know you're looking at a couple of colleges out in California. Berkeley last year practically exploded, and the place was really. And it was because somebody was coming on campus with opinions that they didn't agree with, right? And those opinions may be controversial, but they're not. They're not. They weren't Nazis, right? And
Right.
so I think what started the D-cubed thing, and I forgot to mention this is one of the things I'm going to bring up, was the walkout
Right.
in 2016. Were you involved in that at all? It wasn't at your school. It was there was a few kids at all the high schools, but the biggest high school was River Ridge. Is that
Riverside?
Riverside? One of them. I never came around.
There's no River Ridge.
No, it was one of the. I think it was that one. They had a lot of students that walked out, and did you have any friends, or did you walk out, or any of that?
I didn't walk out, but we had.
I didn't mean to call you out as somebody who didn't walk out, Cynthia.
No. God, so disappointed.
No, that's okay. I'll forgive you.
We had like 5 students that walked out. I think
really?
5, 10, something like that. They were mostly seniors, I think. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Stone Ridge has been a pretty big. Stonebridge. I keep saying that. Stonebridge has been a pretty big part of the D-cubed thing. So we need to get this out to more high schools, right? So so that's what started, was the walking out. So where do you if you were to walk out about something, what would have to happen? In other words, what kind of thing would be a legitimate thing to walk out of a high school about?
The walkout that happened in 2016.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Right,
Gosh.
already.
That's been 2 years.
I definitely think I should have, and that
Oh,
I
really?
regret it.
You think you should have?
Because
That's okay.
I did feel strongly about it, but if I'm being completely honest, the email that really spooked all of my friends, we were planning to walk out, and then our parents came to us and were like, hey, like, you're gonna get suspended.
Right.
And that's the part that, so I really don't know. So
yeah. Well, you think there's one of the first discussions we had about D-cubed, one of the topics we talked about, if you recall, was the purpose of protest, right? So it was, and the way I like to frame it, because, I'm going to frame it the way I want to frame it, is there's kind of two purposes. One is to make your voice heard,
Right.
to make sure that the powers that be hear you, and the other is to disrupt, right? So do you feel like both of those are legitimate and proper forms of protest? Are you comfortable with either of them?
I'm, for the most part, just,
Yeah.
but the disrupt part, I understand that it's how you make a statement.
Sure.
Right, it's how you get your voice heard.
Yeah, I think they do conflate.
Right.
I think some people feel that in order to have their voice heard, or to get attention or whatever, they must disrupt. Back in the almost 10 years ago, I was involved in protests on the, and and it wasn't a disruptive thing. It was a protest thing, or having the voice heard thing. And then Occupy Wall Street came the next year and showed us exactly how to protest. But anyway, so has any of your friends in college dealt with protests at college? Have they had to deal with any of that kind of stuff?
I don't think so.
Sit-ins in a administrator's office and stuff like that. You haven't heard anybody?
Haven't heard about any of that yet, but
it's a lot of fun. So you want to go into government. What do you say to those who are saying that college is just... Actually, there's a story, right? Just a few weeks ago, I don't know if you and I talked about this, a few weeks ago, Google and IBM I think it was Google and IBM, they both took an entire swath of their jobs and declared them not requiring a college degree anymore, right? Because, programming jobs, you don't necessarily have to go to college.
Right.
So do you feel like, and I'm sure you hear it a lot, whether college is actually worth it anymore, or do you feel like it's sort of it's something that later on is not going to be as valuable as it is now. You have any thoughts on that?
I think for some people, college is more of a safety net and a stepping stone. So like for me as first generation, I feel like college is a way for me to step into a new, maybe it's a better economic level. Maybe
Sure.
it's just gaining more of a say, more respect. But college has been labeled something that students have to go to if they want a future.
Sure.
So for like the people, so like the programming jobs, I think it's part of it is based on what you want to do with your life.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
so for me, linguistics and government,
It's going to require some college.
right. I'm not sure how else to do it, but
Yeah, well, the MOOCs are growing, right? The massive online, so that stuff is growing a lot, and I think that 10 years from now, 15 years from now, I think the landscape might be a little different.
Right.
But yeah, first generation, it's exciting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge thing. I think there's a lot of changes in how college degrees are valued now.
Right.
It used to be that that a college degree meant a liberal education, and you're going to a liberal arts world, so that's good. But a liberal education and preparation for a job, but that's not really what it is. It's actually more just kind of a ticket that's being punched in a way. And I mean, that's kind of what you said, right?
Right,
You're really,
right.
it's just kind of a
Safety
status thing. But that's where it is. Well, look, I really have enjoyed chatting with you. I wish you the best of luck in college, and I think that if you continue this desire to try to understand how the world works and have many great conversations, I think you'll move along very well. So
Thank you.
thanks for coming.
Yeah, of
And
course.
you who are watching, please go have a great conversation.